but I would like to go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And if I could, I'd like one of our members who's a veteran, Clancy McCrick, to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very much. Thanks, Clancy. I want to also mention a very special person that has qualities of preciseness and perseverance, Carol Proven. Carol is here. I know.
Yes.
There she is right there. And she has produced and carried the membership directory to us this evening. And that is yeoman's work. It is a labor of love. And I want to thank, on behalf of the board, Carol, for exercising all those duties that come with that awesome responsibility. And for instance, if you're a member and you pay the dues, you get this directory. Anytime you walk in, there will be a directory for you. And I do want to say that, for instance, I did want to say that Brenda Carswell, who's a member, Brenda's right here, and she, it was her birthday, April 14th, so I just want to make that clear. And happy birthday, Brenda. And if you go into the directory, you'll see all the great things Brenda has done. And I just want a few highlights because, and I don't want to embarrass her, but it's amazing because she's retired from the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, and she's a member of the LWV-MAL Prince William County, member of NARFE Chapter 1270 Woodbridge, volunteer in art. Now, she's giving that up this year, I think. Isn't that the plan? I don't know. We'll see. And she's a volunteer at the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, and she's an election official for Prince William County. You get all that in the directory. So, and you know our members, you can just eyeball this great thing that Carol has put together and see that. And also, we do have a memorial to the members who have passed. Our most recent one, Vic Palucci, he was a 24-year veteran of the U.S. Navy. He died April 2nd. We did send a spray to the funeral, red, white, and blue, of course. And many of us attended to pay our respects to Nancy and the family. And I just wanted to mention that. Vic was a treasurer. He was in the Neabsco District Director. He was he was here 3-4 months ago, and I was waving to him at one of the tables. I wanted to go over and chat with him, but anyhow, he had illness, and he didn't talk much about it. I guess that's the way he wanted it. And he lived a very good life. He has a great family. And I also wanted to thank our folks that were lead tonight for this program before we have all the panel discussions and the great dialogue. But Matt Paddow and Brianna Altman put together this program with the program team. They were our lead. And I do want to thank our program chairman, Bill Golden, who is fussing around with the equipment there. He's wearing a lot of hats these days. And I did want to also mention folks that are in the room, and then I'm going to hand the microphone to our immediate past president, Denny Doherty, who's chairman of the nominating committee, and he will present the nominating committee report. What we normally do at the April meeting is have the nominating committee report presented. We now have it loaded on our website, bwc100.org, which you can go to. And then also, we will then have an election at our May meeting on May 21st. And I will give Bill, once he's settled down, he's got everything under control, to have him make an announcement at that meeting. But I did want to recognize some people in the room, and please forgive me if I make any omissions here. First of all, our 51st District Delegate, Rich Anderson, is here. Rich. And his lovely wife, Ruth. Now, I did want to announce some of the candidates we have. Ruth is a candidate for the Occoquan Supervisor, and there is a runoff, the primary, the 25th of April. So she's involved with that. And with the same token, Don Scoggins is here. Don is a member. He's on the program committee, does a lot of things, but he does things without flourish. He's there for you when you need him. And also, I did want to recognize Ernie Porta, who's now he's past mayor of Occoquan. Now, when you're mayor for 8 years, he deserves a lot of recognition. And he's running also for the Occoquan district. So we have 3 excellent candidates here. It's just
all in the Potomac district now.
Yeah, yes, it's amazing conundrum because we have such talent in that one district. It's amazing. And so I just wanted to mention that. And then we do have some, I think Dr. Sam Hill is here, Northern Virginia Community College. And he was there. He's also, when we did our education topic, he was our moderator, did an incredible job. And I did want to mention a colleague of his, Deshaun Davis is here from Northern Virginia Community College. I think you're a department head, is that? Deshaun, I got to talk with you. And, yes, Dean, I'm sorry.
Dr.
Yes, Dr. Deshaun Davis, yes. Oh, yes. And I think Mayor Hal Parrish is here, too.
He is.
And from the press, we have... Pardon?
Mayor Parrish is a candidate also.
Oh, Mayor, that's right. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you, yes. And then we also have Keisha Mushing, the Potomac local press. Michonne. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Brianna. I'm sorry. She is here. Is there any other press that I... Okay, I just wanted to recognize...
Andrea Bailey is here.
Potomac District.
Oh, yeah, Andrea Bailey is here also. Oh, thank you. And what I'd like to do is... oh, yes. Oh, what?
Jack, you've got one over here.
Why don't you just have them all stand?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh,
Don Shaw.
Don Shaw. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. And did I miss anyone else? Or I've covered the territory here. I'd like to hand the microphone over to Denny, our past president, for the nominating committee report.
This is my second opportunity to be an immediate past president. I hope it soon will be coming to an end. Jack appointed as a nominating committee a group of folks, all of whom were past presidents. Linda Silverstrand, sitting next to Jack here. We also had Nancy Veers, who's running around with a camera, sitting in the back there. Michelle Sagisi, sitting next to her. And also Keith Scarborough. Is Keith with us tonight?
He's not.
Okay, now that was the nominating committee. And we appreciated very much the good cooperation we got from folks that we called and asked to consider serving next year. Our job really turned out to be a lot easier than we thought it was going to be. Our nominee for the presidency next year is Jim Young, longtime board member. Our nominee
Can I get
for
rebuttal?
that's next month. Next month, further nominations from the floor are possible, and debates will be in order. The vice president, our vice presidential nominee is Marlo Thomas Watson. Serving as our secretary this year. Carol Provin, who was mentioned earlier, has agreed to be a candidate for secretary of the committee. And finally, for treasurer, we've nominated Harry Wiggins for another term. Those folks are nominees for the officer positions. For directors, for the city of Manassas, our nominee is Susan Bartenhagen. who's currently serving in that role. We have no eligible members in Manassas Park. If you're a public official or a candidate, you're not eligible to serve on our board. And we have 2 members of the city council there who are members, but we need another member to come forward. For Brentsville District, Mary Beth Shaw, who's currently serving. For the Coles District, Judy Zoll. Judy is our past secretary and past program committee chair. Gainesville, Ann Wheeler, who is will be an addition to the board. Neabsco, Scott Bell. And for Occoquan, Brenda Carswell. I asked Brenda before, this time she said yes. For the Potomac District, John Harms.
He's not here tonight.
Okay. And then for the at-large positions, of which there are 4, Jane Byer.
Jane has 3 conflicts tonight.
Only 3. Jan Kennard.
She didn't make it.
Okay. Both of them are currently serving, as is Sharon Pandak. Those 3 are will be returning to the board, and Brian Altman.
Right here.
Previously a member from her district. So we've got some old, some new, and it's all up to you next month whether these or some other candidates may be chosen. But we're again thanks to those who we approach for being so cooperative and willing to serve. It's going to be made our job much easier than we expected.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I'd like to just give the floor to Bill Golden to introduce the that we have for next month and explain a little bit about from the program committee perspective. He is the chair of the program committee.
Thank you. May's program will be all about jobs, and we're calling it Jobs, Jobs, Jobs. You know, we have an election coming up, and you hear lots of folks say, if you put me in office, I'll create jobs. It could happen. But there are a lot of technologies, a lot of trends, a lot of challenges out there, and we're going to hear tonight about visions, but sometimes market forces overtake visions and some of the things that are happening out there. So we want to talk about jobs, 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 the future of Prince William. What are some of these technologies and trends, and where will the market take Prince William? Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you very much. I want to introduce the moderator for this evening. It's Brendan Shaw. Brendan is Director of Government Relations for the Prince William County Chamber. Brendan is a longtime Prince William County resident from Haymarket, and for the better part of a decade, he worked on numerous political campaigns on the federal, state, and local levels along the East Coast. He also spent 2 years doing community outreach, public relations work for the E.V. Hunter Trust, a Northern Virginia-based family-owned land trust that operates out of Fairfax County. And most recently, Brendan worked in the office of Majority Whip Delegate Jackson Miller as his legislative aide. And currently, Brendan is Director of the Government Relations at the Chamber, and it's a strong voice for the business community in the Washington, D.C. metro area, together with a diverse membership representing nearly 1,500 people thrive. So without further ado, I'd like to, well, Brendan is a graduate of George Mason University with a degree in government and international politics. So without further ado, I'd like to yield the floor to Brendan.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Jack, for the kind introduction. Thank you, Brianna, for putting all this together. This is absolutely wonderful. We have a fantastic panel this evening. We have many, many decades of experience in front of us, so it's going to be a great program. As you know, tonight we're going to be discussing the future of Prince William County. The county has grown at a very rapid pace over the past decade. And because of this rapid growth, we are currently facing several enormous challenges in serving the population that continues to grow and is going to, again, continue to grow over the next 20 years or so, and we're expected to see an additional 200,000 residents by then, so we have a lot more growth in front of us. Employment opportunities in the county and residential development are two drivers of the future economy. The future in Prince William County will be determined by how it adapts its policies to better serve the growing population and manage the transition from a formerly rural county into the second largest locality in the Commonwealth. To begin, I want to start by introducing our panelists. I'm going to introduce them in the order that they're going to be speaking in. First, we have Dr. Terry Clower. He is the Northern Virginia Chair and University Professor at George Mason University. He is the Deputy Director of the Center for Regional Analysis and the School of Public Policy. The center provides economic and public policy research services to sponsors in the private, nonprofit, and public sectors. Prior to joining GMU, he was Director for the Center for Economic Development and Research at the University of North Texas. Dr. Clower also spent 10 years employed in private industry in logistics and transportation management positions. Dr. Clower has authored or co-authored over 120 articles, book chapters, and research reports reflecting experience in economic and community development, economic and fiscal impact analysis, transportation, land use planning, housing, and economic forecasting. Dr. Clower received a bachelor's degree in marine transportation from Texas A&M University in 1982, a master's degree in applied economics from the University of North Texas in 1992, and a PhD in information sciences from the University of North Texas in 1997, specializing in information policy issues and the use of information resources. Thank you, Dr. Clower, for being here this evening. Next, we have Ralph Stephenson. Mr. Stephenson is the co-founder of the Prince William Citizens for Balanced Growth. The Prince William Citizens for Balanced Growth originated during the proposed Brentwood residential development and rezoning in 2005 and 2006. Prince William Citizens for Balanced Growth remains active, seeking to ensure that county policies balance residential growth with traffic, school, tax, economic, and quality of life issues. He speaks Mandarin and Chinese and currently serves as membership and financial officer for a local Chinese language congregation. Mr. Stephenson has both a bachelor's in communications and journalism and an MBA in finance from Brigham Young University. He served with the Foreign Broadcast Information Service for 10 years as an editor and manager in Thailand, Japan, and South Korea. He currently serves as a strategic planner, financial officer in the U.S. government. Mr. Stephenson has been married for over 27 years. They have been residents of Northern Virginia since the early 1980s and settled in Prince William County in 2000. They have 3 children, all who graduated from Marsteller Middle School and Brentsville High School. Thank you for being here, Mr. Stephenson. Next, we have Mr. Mark Gibb. Mark was chosen by the Northern Virginia Regional Commission to serve as executive director in April of 1987. He serves as the commission's chief executive officer and is responsible for the implementation of plans, studies, and projects designated by the commission. Mr. Gibb served several years as an adjunct professor of planning with the University of Virginia, Northern Virginia Center. Prior to his appointment as director of the NVRC, Mr. Gibb served as the executive director of the Kern Council of Governments, located in Bakersfield, California. While in California, Mr. Gibb also served as an adjunct professor of public administration. Mr. Gibb received his master's in public administration from Brigham Young University in 1978. He earned his Bachelor of Arts degree in 1976, also from BYU, and he majored there in geography and international relations. He is a native of Arlington, Virginia. He is married and has 4 children, and Mr. Gibb and his family currently reside in Herndon. Thank you, sir, for being here. Finally, we have Bob Buchanan. Now, Bob Buchanan is a third-generation builder and developer involved in office, retail, industrial, residential, and large mixed-use planned communities. He is a principal of Buchanan Partners, a full-service real estate development company, and is also the president of the 2030 Group, an association of Washington metropolitan area business leaders focused on regional long-term decision-making and solutions. In 2013, Mr. Buchanan was recognized in the Washington Business Journal's Power 100 list. It's a list of the region's most influential business leaders. His memberships and affiliations include: he's the chair of the Montgomery County Executive Business Advisory Group. He is the chair of the Prince William Economic Advisor Group. He's on the Board of Trustees at George Mason University Foundation. He's on the advisory board with Ruppert Companies. He's on the board of directors at the Metropolitan Center for the Visual Arts, the board of directors with the Washington Airports Task Force, and the board of directors with the Dulles South Alliance. He has a bachelor's degree from Yale University. Thank you for being here, Mr. Buchanan. All right, so we are going to get the show started. Dr. Clower is going to kick it off for us. We do have a 12-minute limit on each presentation. We do have a timekeeper somewhere.
Right here. Thank you so much.
No problem.
All other duties as assigned.
All right, so Marlo is going to keep time for us. From what I understand, cutting in and out. From what I understand, she's going to hold up the yellow card when we have, is it 2 minutes?
Yes.
That's correct. And red obviously means stop. So, Dr. Clower, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to come out and speak with you guys. And for an East Texas boy, I'll be speaking quickly. When it was asked to talk about the future, I do think it is important that we kind of think about where we are now. And most of you have seen the stories by now. We've been talking for several months out of the Center for Regional Analysis about the DC economy is at a point where it needs to change. We are a company town. 40% of our regional economy is tied to the federal government. Without any insult to anybody, I would argue to you that it is a company that is not functioning real well right now. Forgive me if I'm wrong about that. But if we look at it, we are starting to really trail the rest of the nation. If you look at 2014 in terms of job creation among the major metropolitan regions, the Washington, D.C. region is DAL, dead last. I mean, we are just trailing. Detroit is doing better than we are. That usually gets a groan or two out there. I don't know how long before Detroit gets over it. So we have folks that say, well, our unemployment rate is low. We see construction cranes going on. Things must be good. But what is mattering is we are not creating the right kind of jobs. Our average wages of jobs created in this region have been declining 3 years in a row. We are down. If you look at the value of the jobs that we are creating versus the value of jobs that we lost in the recession, we're still down about $1 billion worth of economic activity. This has meaning for us all in this region. And this is a regional problem that we have to address with leadership that reaches across our city, county, state boundaries. We cannot address this as Prince William County is going to just kick everybody's butt. No, because you can't do it by yourself. This is going to require regional initiatives for us to address. Now, if we look at what you guys have been doing, I know some of you are on the budget committees and things like that, and you're very much aware that your property valuations are still a good bit below their pre-recession peaks. You're showing some growth, but you're still down. One of the things that you may not know is about your balance. I'm sorry, this thing's kind of cutting in now. I'm trying to get a little closer. About the balance of your tax base. Right now, you guys, according to the latest data we have for 2014, have about 17% of your tax base in non-residential property. All right? I would tell you that on average, a rule of thumb, and rule of thumbs are, variable, you need about 30% in non-residential to have a good, strong tax base. If you get that commercial tax base growing, your tax rate will be lower. And that's not a bad thing. I don't care which side of the aisle you sit on, right? So what you have to, you start thinking about, what do we do to grow our tax base? How do we get there? There's another element as we start moving forward about what do we do, how do we get there? You start looking at your industries that you can grow, how to pivot away from dependence on government. Get these talented people that run businesses that are selling business to government to do business to business. And that might require helping them along, understanding markets, because many of them have spent their entire careers selling under federal procurement rules. Help them to understand how to market themselves to businesses. But one of the key things is exports are key. Without going through the time of having you guess, one of the biggest reasons I always tell people to try to grow their export-based businesses is because all of your cost of production and business operation gets built into that price, including your local taxes. So the degree to which you can export it, you're exporting part of your tax burden. Let somebody in another part of the state or another state, I mean, good gosh, let Texas do it. Pay some of your taxes, right? So what can you look at? Well, these are things like scientific and technical services. You are a highly educated workforce. It doesn't make sense for you to do low value added activities. The higher ed and health services, some manufacturing. This is one of the things that if I start looking at the future of Prince William County, I start seeing the possibility of one of the most diversified economic bases in this region. You have the space to do it. You don't have yet the transportation infrastructure to support it. And this means both moving things in east and west. It also moves north and south. And I know there's controversy about some of those routes, but you got to get both parties sitting down to figure out a way to make that happen. Or what can happen to you is the good folks just a little bit west of you will just pass you by. And you'll be the hole in the donut 40 years from now. So you can take your actions on that. But what else can you be? You can be a key center of medical research. I mean, what are we calling it now? George Mason in Prince William County is no longer George Mason in Prince William County. It is now the GMU Science and Technology Campus. That's good for marketing. And for those of you that are happen to be running for office right now, you realize that marketing is a pretty important thing, right? It is your perception. You have an opportunity to work with businesses, to work with planning, to work with the university to help grow that. I mean, we've got this great initiative. You may have seen it on April 23rd, where we're going to dedicate the Institute for Advanced Biomedical Research. This is not a matter of you trying to take things away from, say, Bethesda, Maryland. This is taking the things that they do at NIH and turning it into translational medicine that actually does things for people and being centers for treatment. This is a part of what you guys can do to contribute to this region becoming a truly global economy. You are a global political center. Why the heck can't you be a global business center? Now, to get to that, what you also have to have is a very successful airport and an international. All right? So these are also things of working to have the ancillary transportation activities that will help Dulles Airport grow. I come from an economy in Dallas-Fort Worth where the manufacturing associated with air cargo that happens in the Dallas-Fort Worth area is worth $16 billion a year and creates hundreds of thousands of jobs. That's going to be a while happening. But that's your aspiration. If I'm again looking for what happens into the future. The other piece that I'm going to suggest to you becomes a matter of practice. I've been doing economic development either in the private sector or as an academic researcher for about 30 years now. I guess that means that we have lots of experience on the team. I think what he did is he really called us all over. But what I see needing to happen is that you have a good about the high tech, the computer simulation, the gaming stuff that's going on. I mean, you're getting good spin-offs now. It's about being able to, in some respects, attract businesses, but it's about helping your businesses to grow. So you have to work with those businesses. But as you work with those businesses and your economic development people, you have to be coordinated with VDOT, with regional transportation commissions, and with your land use planning. You know, one of the things that most places don't do is start thinking about well, let's have we have a future land use plan, but is that future land use plan tied at all to our economic development strategies? And do our economic development strategies tie into our transportation strategies? And that's some of the things that can put you ahead of the game if you start looking at those kind of opportunities. Now, one of the other things, though, what I would tell you, and maybe there will be some in the audience that don't want to hear this part, is that you take a current circumstance like you have now where you are out of balance on your non-residential. But that is a circumstance that it is now. Economic development is a process. It's not bagging the buffalo, the big company coming in. It doesn't ever stop. So when you're thinking about what you're doing, I would never suggest that you start telling people, you can't do this, you can't do that, because we want something else to happen, because you need it to happen when the market will let it happen. And think of your long-term goal, that over time you have balance. And it is a balance you've created through planning, through purposeful planning, that you get community engagement, and you revise those plans as you go, because Lord knows we have no idea what technology is going to look like 5 years from now. The other piece that I'm going to just mention is workforce development. The two things that I'd suggest to you is, first of all, with the university, you have great opportunities with your community college districts. You have excellent training programs that can help. Don't forget about basic education out of this too, because the technologies that we train on today come from people that think deep thoughts. So train your children to think deep thoughts. But the other component of that education, it really amounts to it doesn't stop. The nature of work is changing so dramatically. We are likely to all be contract workers at some point in the future, and you can never stop. We have to instill a culture of continuous education. Now, if we get that done, if we do our planning, we invest in transportation, we consider that everything we do is under long-range goals, and we don't get too hung up about one event or another event, then what I see for you guys is prosperity, having a tremendous opportunity to be a leading economic generator for this region, a center for commerce. Let me just give you one example that I've thought about. I read someplace recently where you have some what do you call it? The manufacturing that's based on these machines that just what's the advanced manufacturing?
No, it's advanced manufacturing.
Well,
It's like Micron,
Now, what I'm thinking of is where you're scanning something and then you build it up out of plastic. 3D printing? Yeah. The 3D printing, you think about that. There is 3D printing, sorry I stumbled on that. 3D printing is occurring in Washington, D.C. If they're successful and they scale it up, do you think there's any place where you can really do scaled up manufacturing in Washington, D.C.? No. Take that mature company and bring them to Prince William County, where you have the land, the resources, and hopefully in the future, the transportation network, so that they can ship not only across the country, but across the world. And then you're exporting that tax base that I talked about. I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Clower. That was very interesting. We actually had a great meeting this morning. I believe Bob was there at the Dulles Matters event. And just to kind of touch on the importance of a regional economy, I just wanted to mention something that one of Dr. Clower's colleagues had to say today. It was actually Dr. Annie Hunt-Burris, who's the CEO at George Mason University. And she had a really fantastic quote. Just, it's great food for thought. We are the capital of capitalism in the world. That is the opportunity that we have in Prince William County, and it's going to be really interesting to see everything that we can do here in the coming years. With that, I'd like to welcome Mr. Ralph Stephenson up from the Prince William Citizens for Balanced Growth.
I enjoyed Dr. Flower's comment about the federal government being a long-term strategic planner, a financial planner for the federal government. All I can say is you have no idea. I have a coworker who describes working in this kind of work as working for Satan, and then he adds two other adjectives that I cannot repeat in this meeting. Anyway, on to the topic at hand. Where we've been and where we're going is what I'm going to talk about in Prince William County. When my family moved to Prince William County, can you hear me?
Yeah.
When we moved my family to Prince William County in 2000, the roads were so bad, so overcrowded, that it took 40 minutes each morning to travel 3 miles out of the residential developments around us to Ballsford Road. And that was just the beginning of the everyday ordeal of getting to from work. Our 3 children went to middle school and high school here, and their classes were chronically overcrowded, often in trailers, and had very high student-to-teacher ratios. Then as now, county land use policy, whenever it intersected residential developer interests, was effectively the same as residential developer interests. In fact, I've heard stories from former county government officers of at least one pro-residential development Board of County Supervisors member roaming the workplaces of county planning staff and insisting that planning staffers' land use studies and recommendations help residential developers achieve proper quote-unquote rates of return on development investment. In other words, government-guaranteed profit margins, county-guaranteed profit margins. Whether such stories are apocryphal or not, and I highly doubt that they are, actual county policies and Vox members' behavior and hundreds of thousands of dollars each in campaign contributions, Mr. Stewart is down there $1 million, from residential developers give a ring of truth to the stories. Residential developers pursue their own economic self-interest, which is fine in a narrow economic sense, but it's not okay when residential developers exert undue influence over local government, particularly the Board of County Supervisors, and county land use policy then becomes a tool of the residential development industry and is thus consistently diverted to serve ends that benefit a tiny minority of citizens, residential developers and related trades, that seriously harm virtually everyone else, i.e. ordinary citizens, commuters, public school students, and taxpayers. So that's the past. Let's forget about the past. Let's focus on the future. But the past, you have to understand the present. The past to understand the present, you have to understand both to understand the future. Here's one goal that Prince William Citizens Balanced Growth would recommend for the county. A greater role for ordinary citizens and a less dominant, overweening role for residential developers and their allies in determining county land use policy. Look at who from Prince William County is here addressing you and running this meeting tonight. Unfortunately, it looks a lot to me like our county is still run. Brandon has been involved in the developer industry. We have another developer here. And then what's left from the citizens, unfortunately, is me, ordinary citizens. Little old me and Prince William Citizens Balanced Growth doing what we can to stem this so far up to this point in our history, a tide of bad county land use policy driven by residential development campaign dollars. I do it part-time after work, after a 3-hour commute each day to only a workplace only 30 miles away, after family, church, and other community responsibilities. But not to worry, my developer friends. My wife Kathy and I will be retiring soon. Then we'll have a lot more time to spend together, work together, and get to know each other better. So anyway, we need to reduce this outsized role of residential developers in running Prince William County more proportionate role. Residential developer power and privilege in Prince William County seems akin to a divine right aristocracy right now, complete with kingly sums of campaign money to box members and indirect taxpayer subsidies to developers that harm average taxpayers. Okay, am I still okay? Okay. Remember that most residential development in the county is tax negative, as Prince William Citizens for Balanced Growth once again demonstrated the last time I spoke here about a year ago. That is not even to mention how residential overdevelopment is the cause of the county's horribly overcrowded roads and schools, which are now the most overcrowded in the state the schools are, and its impacts on owners of existing homes whose home prices are reduced by high supply. Whether citizens take a more active role in determining their future will of course be up to them. Prince William Citizens for Balanced Growth intends to do everything they can to assist. That's goal number one. A more normalized role for residential developers, a greater role for citizens. There are many ways to accomplish that if we're serious about getting the citizens more involved. Some general land use principles the county should follow. Could you click on the upper right, that link in the upper right? This is from 2007. Go down to the bullets. Okay. This is from 2007. This Prince William Citizens for Balanced Growth website, uwcbg.org. This is from 2007, but things have not changed much in terms of the big issues here. I'm just sort of highlighting. So again, the point is to ensure county policies that do the following. Adequate road transportation and utility infrastructure as well as public education capabilities are in place at the time that residential or commercial developments are built, or as they're needed instead of years or decades after they're first needed. Important prerequisites for achieving this are comprehensive long-term land use planning with broad-based citizen input, as we were just hearing, insistence on meaningful developer proffers and/or impact fees as appropriate, and prudent and ethical use of county bond financing. Number 2, commercial development at least keeps pace with residential development. I'll talk about this a little bit more. In recent years, the exact opposite has been occurring in the county as commercial properties have consistently declined as a percentage of the tax base. They sort of started slow, low, and then tapered off as a percentage of the tax base. The third is residential development rezonings are approved only when there's a need for new housing. Last I checked, the county's number of approved but not yet built houses reportedly was still about 3,000 units. And at the same time, At the same time, we're approving new housing developments all the time. More housing supply unnecessarily also reduces property values, as we know, and things like that. Things like traffic increases. Property values decline, and the schools go down. And again, it hurts the tax base. So most residential development is tax. So those are 3 things to consider relative to residential development. Now let's move from residential development to commercial development. The need to increase the commercial tax ratio. A couple years ago, in an article titled Prince William County, Sleepy Suburb of 400,000, the Washington Business Journal noted that, quote, commercial and industrial property accounts for less than 15% of Prince William County's real estate tax base, half that of Arlington, and 8% less than Fairfax County. The top 10 employers in the county are, listen to this, low-wage retailers, child care, hospitals, and local and federal government. PW County is, quote, not yet a place where big business sees a future, and, quote, is more dependent on residential real property taxes to fuel its annual budget and suffers a swifter, harsher blow when the housing market turns sour, end quote. If we don't attract more professional, high-wage commercial development, the county will continue its slide toward an increasingly low-wage community economy. Currently, 82% of county property tax revenues come from residential and about 15% from commercial. I strongly urge the county to clean house with its economic development department. First, considering firing its director, who appears to have done nothing to seriously attract commercial development and may even prefer residential development, and there's not here we say this before this very forum.
Can't hear you.
Okay, I strongly urge the county to clean house with its economic development department. First, considering even firing its director, who appears to have done nothing to seriously attract commercial development and may even prefer residential development, as he reportedly said from reports of people who were at the meeting, that he reportedly said before this very forum 2 years back, 4 years back. Then increase the economic development department's size, clout, and oversight by in partnership with Box. According to one Box supervisor, it currently has about 15 employees and is nowhere near full service in a way that it can compete with Fairfax, Loudoun, Arlington, etc. How about, for the first time, competing seriously for and investing in high-paying, high-tax revenue commercial businesses? Currently, PW County's land use politics are basically a product of developers and their allies, or too heavily influenced. Our business community and economy are overrepresented by residential developers, overly dependent on residential development, as is our county tax base. We can do better. Until we do, Prince William County will remain the economic backwater, the sleepy suburb of 400,000 people that the Washington Business Journal describes. We can do better, much better. In the end, as is always the case, we'll get the kind of county government, the kind of politics that we fought for. Thank you.
Thank you, Ralph. While we may have some disagreements on the residential development side, I do 100% agree with you on the commercial side. Again, we have some great opportunities in the county, and what I don't think has been mentioned yet is we have seen, while not significant growth on the commercial end in the county, we have seen some growth over the year that is at least giving some of us some optimistic feelings about the county and where we may be headed. At this time, I'd like to welcome Mr. Mark Gibb, the Executive Director for the Northern Virginia Regional Commission. Mark.
Thank you very much. I think this is working. And I think I have some slides for you to watch to give you a little diversity here. I'll walk around. Okay, all right. The first slide is very important for you to see, so you go to that, you can see that's my name on there. The next slide is very important for you to see. You can get that on there. This is how I spent my spring vacation this year. If you get that on there. There I am in Thailand. And So I was there a week ago, and it's me on that elephant. And I have 3 reasons for showing that picture. I was there in Thailand with my son, who was over in Thailand for 3 months, and my family, and knew I was going to ride this elephant. The first reason I showed this picture is what I'm going to tell you is really big tonight. The second reason is what I'm going to tell you is that when I saw the brochure to ride an elephant, it looked pretty easy, it looked like fun. But to actually ride that elephant, have you ever ridden an elephant? Have you ever ridden an elephant? It's really hard. I was on this elephant for 2 hours. And I was hanging onto a rope. That's my son in front of me who's scared to death. And an elephant's really, really big. And, you fear for your life. And the third reason I want to show you this is Hal Parrish now thinks I'm finally on board with the GOP. But actually, I still work for the D's and the R's, Hal, so I want you to know. Next slide. Northern Virginia, how many of you have ever heard of the Northern Virginia Regional Commission? How many have not heard of this? How many know what we do? How many don't know what we do? How many don't care? Just so you know, we call ourselves the voice of Northern Virginia. There are 21 planning district commissions in Virginia. We are the Northern Virginia. We're authorized by the General Assembly, and my board of directors consists of the mayors and chairmen of the various county and city boards. Hal Parrish, as the mayor of Manassas, is one of my great board members. So we meet monthly and look at things at Northern Virginia as a region. Keep next slide. You can just see that. Oh, I didn't see that. We're actually 2.6 million. There's a typo there. But you can kind of see Northern Virginia. And, you should all feel very proud because you live one of the greatest areas in the world. You live in one of the fastest growing areas in the United States. You live in the most prosperous area in the United States, the most diverse, and the most educated. If you don't believe me, let me show you some numbers. Keep going. We're a gateway. We're 1 every 4 people living in Northern Virginia is foreign-born. Only New York City has more diverse population. There are 8 school districts in the country in which 100 languages are more spoken. 7 of them are in our area. The other is New York City. Keep going. We're the most highly educated. There are 3,500 cities and counties in the United States. Look where we rank in all of that. We are really unique. Next slide. We are also one of the most prosperous regions in the country. Look at 3,500 cities and counties in the United States. Look at us. We're incredible. It's an incredible region in which you live. You should be proud of this. Keep going. And finally, our proximity to the D.C. makes us this way. But in the last decade, guess what? We grew faster than 42 states. We grew faster than the entire state of Maryland. We grew faster than the entire state of Pennsylvania. Little tiny Northern Virginia grew faster than the entire state of Oregon or Utah. It's amazing what's happened there. Keep going. I'm going to go run through these real fast. But we have our problems, as you've already heard. Our transportation, affordable housing, immigration issues, our aging population, workforce, you've already heard. We have 400,000 jobs, but we don't have people to fill the jobs coming forward. How are we going to do that? We have environmental issues, we have energy, we have budgetary problems. These are some of our challenges. And keep going. And one of the unique challenges we have is this, what you haven't heard, is that we have this thing called this demographic inversion that's underway. You probably hear about how fast Prince William County, and for the last 50 years, the population of Northern Virginia continues to move out and out and out. And we, whatever you want to call it, a lot of places call it very different things. But we're now seeing the population shift to go towards the inner city or towards inside the Beltway and not move out. There's a historic restructuring. What we want to talk about suburbia, and it's all about these new people called the millennials. I don't see too many of them here, but maybe we ought to invite them to come. They want to live in different places than what historically we think of as suburbia. And in Prince William County and Northern Virginia, we need to rethink how we're restructuring our communities, because where people live is important, and they're going to decide where these jobs are coming, and we're in competition. We're in competition now. It used to be we used to look at, what's Baltimore doing? But now it's a worldwide economy. We need to look at not only at Baltimore, we need to look at Beijing, we need to look at Bangkok, we need to look at Beijing. These are the places we're in competition with the new jobs. Keep going. And this is where we come in, because the economic forces and the problems our region face don't recognize jurisdictional boundaries, which were drawn on that over 200 years ago, are based on a 17th century model of British government that has long since vanished. We need to work together regionally for all of these issues in order to be successful. Keep going. The programs we get involved in, you can see there, it's numerous. Just give you another commercial for what we do. Keep going. And what we're doing right now is trying to learn the future by looking around the world and seeing what lessons we can draw from other regions throughout the world. And have an international focus to transfer technology for policy innovations overseas to Northern Virginia. Hal Parrish has been involved in some of these ideas, and it's a program we've developed internationally to bring new ideas to the future in Northern Virginia. Let me just show you some of these things. In the whole era of climate and energy, we have some energy issues here in Northern Virginia. I thought you'd be interested to see this, the whole idea of district energy and what we've learned about across the cities. There's some fascinating programs, but you see this gentleman right here. He's standing next to a device that was manufactured by Volkswagen. It goes in your basement. Thank you. Goes in your basement and can heat and cool your home. Also, it can generate all electricity for your home. Believe it or not, it can also generate enough electricity for 4 more homes as well. They're building thousands of these in Germany. Why aren't we doing these things? These are the things we should be looking at. District energy is on your right, this little diagram. It shows you how you could actually heat and cool an entire community rather than have standalone heating units. We were in Stuttgart, Germany with Hal. I was walking next to our guide who was telling us all about how district heating works. He said it was a cold day, it was freezing. He said, we happened to be next to a department store in which the doors were wide open. Heat was pouring out of there, and I said, you Germans talk a good story about heating and energy conservation, but look, you had the doors wide open. He said, Mr. Dave, you don't quite understand, do you? He said, all of our energy for this heating is being generated from the subway system below us, and it's so efficient that the only way we can get the heat moderated by opening the doors wide open. They don't have individual units. They take the energy they have and make it efficient. Next slide. This goes back to some things we saw in Germany 15 years ago. A green roof, or what we want to call stormwater infrastructure, was really unheard of. These are the pictures we saw of green roofs across Germany. We realize there's a real opportunity. Now in Northern Virginia, we have the greatest concentration of green roofs anywhere in the United States. These are the things that we can learn, and it's not just for greenery. This brings a lot of new opportunities for jobs. It brings new stormwater management opportunities that we've learned, and we can share these best practices. Next slide. Someone talked about airports this morning, you see a picture of Dulles Airport on the right. On the left is what we want to call a smart city airport, which is in Incheon, South Korea. You can see the image. Incheon is voted almost unanimously as the best airport in the world. This has been for many years running. That is not the terminal now, that's the new terminal building right now. Even though they have the best airport now, they're building a new terminal, it's even better. We've had our same terminal for 50 years. We can do better than this. And by the way, they have an entire city around Incheon called Songdo, which has a planned city by an American developer that brings new innovations. They don't even need garbage trucks in this new city. Their waste management is pneumatically taken from your home or your business away. There are ways to save money. We can do so much better. than what we do. And I was in France not too long ago. They had adopted the same system in France, but we're not doing these kinds of things. The things that we used to be innovative about are just not happening. So this is why we need to be comparing ourselves with other places in the world and how we can do better in working regionally. And interesting enough, in South Korea as well, the broadband is free and freely available and works at least 2 or 3 times faster than we have in the United States. Keep going. So I think I brought it back together the things that I said, but we have some enormous challenges. Sort of our, going back to my analogy of the elephant, we have some big challenges to face, but we have a lot to look forward to in the future. And in Prince William County, we need to be looking at how we develop that future. You can no longer look at suburbia as the place to be comfortable, because if you want people to come to Prince William County, you have to be developing your areas where people want to live. Do they want to live in an area like a suburban area, or do you want to be more like an area that provides the amenities for these new millennials? I'll just give you one example. We do a number of what we call charrettes all over Northern Virginia. Charrette is a planning exercise that involves the community. We've done over 30 of them all over the region. We just finished one in the city of Fairfax. And the community really pulled together and decided they really wanted to become what they would call a smart community, a smart downtown, because they know that bringing people together is what's going to attract the new jobs and the new people. About 2 years prior to this, we did a charrette in Prince William County. I won't mention the area. It's not here, and it's not in Manassas. But they did not quite understand the new economy. And what we put together is not something that would make the community better for the 21st century. In fact, just the opposite. It was a continuation of suburbia. We need to rethink how we're developing our land and how we're developing our future, because that is going to develop the people that come to Prince William County. Thank you very much.
Alrighty, thank you, Mark. Finally, I'd like to welcome Mr. Buchanan forward.
Good evening. I know some of you, but I don't know most. And I'm from Maryland, and for me to be here tonight is more a reflection of my sense of getting to be involved with the communities that our company is developing in. And your committee of 100 reminded me of a chance I had in the late 80s when I was developing in Ballston in Arlington to meet with the Arlington's Committee of 100. Can you hear me okay? Okay. And I was so impressed with that group because they were very caring, leading citizens and very interested in wanting to know what was happening in their county. Like you, they were trying to understand what was going on, what the market was doing, but they also wanted to stay ahead of things. And so I had occasion on twice to speak to them, and I learned a lot just in the nature of their questions and the nature of their concerns. So I handed out a page on 2030, and I hope most of you have gotten it, and it gives you some links to some of the research we've done. It tells you some of the people on that have been with us and what our goals are. But most importantly, several years ago, there were a number of leaders who were fearful that no one was thinking regionally, no one was trying to prioritize what the region needed to do, the hard, long-range decisions that needed to be made so that our quality of life could be sustained at the level we've come to expect. And at the time, there was a concern that we were too dependent on the federal government, but we didn't realize just how badly we were. And we changed, and some of us are still in denial about what it's going to take and what that new transformation is going to end up being. and picking up a little bit also on what Mark just said, it won't be like it was. It's as good as we are as a workforce, as smart as we are, as great as our communities are, and I will also say as clean as our politics are. We won't be the same, and we're losing the global competition to those regions that didn't have Uncle Sugar downtown doling out